A lowlife
A
like you doesn't
lowlife
deserve
like you
to sit in
doesn't
first
deserve
class.
to sit in first class.
Flight attendant Cheryl Davis slapped Ava Mitchell hard across the face. The impact sent Ava's head snapping to the side. "That's what thieves get," Cheryl sneered, snatching Ava's boarding pass and ripping it into pieces. She threw the torn paper at Ava's feet like garbage. "Pick up that ticket and get back to economy," Cheryl roared, her eyes blazing. The first-class cabin fell silent. 30 passengers watched with phones recording as Ava, dressed in simple jeans and sneakers, stood frozen with a red handprint on her dark cheek. Someone whispered, "Finally, someone is handling these scammers properly." A child whimpered in the back row, silenced by a parent's hand. A businessman leaned forward, camera raised, while another passenger gasped. Every breath in the cabin felt heavy, waiting to see if Ava would obey or fight back. What Cheryl Davis didn't know, couldn't know, was that in exactly 93 minutes, her entire world would come crashing down around her, and it would all be broadcast live to millions. Ava watched as Cheryl moved through the first-class cabin with practiced efficiency, her smile warm and genuine as she attended to the other passengers. "Can I get you anything before takeoff, Mr. Henderson?" "Your usual scotch?" she purred to the silver-haired man in 1A. "And Mrs. David, I have that extra pillow you requested." But when Ava raised her hand slightly, Cheryl's eyes slid past her as if she were invisible. Once, twice. The third time, Ava cleared her throat softly. "Excuse me, could I get some water?" Cheryl paused, her back stiffening. Without turning, she continued to the galley. Ava could hear her speaking to another flight attendant, not bothering to lower her voice. "I think we have a situation in 2A. She claims she has a first-class ticket, but—" The pause was heavy with implication. "You know—" The other attendant, a younger woman with kind eyes, glanced toward Ava. "Maybe we should just—" "Trust me, Donna. 15 years I've been doing this job. I know when someone doesn't belong." Cheryl's voice carried clearly in the quiet cabin. "Look at her. Ripped jeans, in first class. She probably spent her last penny on that ticket, or worse." The businessman in 2B shifted uncomfortably, his pale eyes darting between Ava and the flight attendants. He leaned slightly away from Ava, clutching his laptop bag closer. When his eyes met hers briefly, Ava saw it, that familiar mix of suspicion and superiority. He whispered something to his companion across the aisle, and Ava caught fragments. "Can't be too careful these days. Identity theft." Ava's fingers moved across her phone screen with deliberate calm. She pulled up the Sky Horizon Airlines employee directory, scrolling to a specific contact. Her thumb hovered over the name. Marcus Thompson, chairman of the board. Not yet. Let them show their true colors first. She'd bought this airline to change things, to build something better. But sitting here, being erased by her own employees' prejudice, she realized the problem ran deeper than policies and training videos. The rot was in the culture itself, metastasizing in small cruelties and casual dismissals. "Probably used a stolen credit card," Cheryl's voice drifted from the galley. "You see it all the time with these people." These people. 2 words that carried the weight of centuries. Ava had heard them before, in boardrooms where she was the only black face, in hotels where staff followed her to ensure she was a guest, in her own stores where security shadowed her steps. But hearing them here, on her plane, from her employee, struck different. She typed another message, this time to her chief legal officer. "Begin documentation. Hostile work environment developing on Flight 447. Then she settled back in her seat, maintaining the same calm expression she'd perfected through decades of navigating spaces where her presence was questioned before her competence. The man in 2B was openly staring now, his phone partially raised. Recording? Perhaps. Ava made note of his face, his seat number. Every witness would matter in what was coming. Cheryl returned with reinforcements. The senior flight attendant flanked by two others, creating a wall of navy blue uniforms and fixed smiles. "Ma'am," Cheryl began, her tone dripping with false courtesy, "I'm going to need to see your identification along with your boarding pass. It's a new security protocol. Ava had flown this route twice a month for 3 years. There was no new protocol, but she reached for her wallet anyway, extracting her driver's license with deliberate slowness." "Of course." Cheryl snatched the ID, holding it up to the light as if checking for forgery. "Ava Mitchell," she read aloud, skepticism coating each syllable. "This name isn't on our VIP list. How exactly did you purchase this ticket?" "Through your website, like everyone else." Ava's voice remained level, professional. She'd learned long ago that anger only fed their narratives. "I'll need to verify this with our ground crew." Cheryl turned to the other attendants. "Keep an eye on her." The younger attendant, Donna, shifted uncomfortably. "Cheryl, maybe we should—" "What?" "Let potential fraud slide because we're afraid of looking politically incorrect?" Cheryl's voice rose slightly. "This is about safety, Donna. All of our passengers' safety." The cabin was filling now, passengers craning necks to see the source of the commotion. A few phones were definitely recording. The businessman in 2B had given up all pretense of subtlety, his phone openly pointed at Ava. "Is there a problem here?" A woman's voice from behind. Ava turned to see a black woman in 3A, her power suit immaculate, her expression carefully neutral. Their eyes met for a moment, recognition, not of faces, but of experience. "No problem," Cheryl said quickly. "Just verifying some documentation." Ava's phone buzzed. Marcus Thompson. "Watching the situation. Security is on standby. Say the word." She typed back, "Not yet. Let them dig deeper." "Actually," the captain's voice came over the intercom, "folks, we're going to have a slight delay. Just some routine paperwork to sort out. Should be wheels up in about 10 minutes. Cheryl smiled triumphantly, as if the delay vindicated her suspicions. She leaned closer to Ava, lowering her voice. "I know exactly what you're trying to do, but not on my flight. Not in my cabin." "Your cabin?" Ava couldn't help the slight smile that tugged at her lips. The irony was almost too perfect. "I've been senior attendant on this route for 5 years. I've seen every scam, every trick, every—" Cheryl straightened, addressing the growing audience. "We have procedures for suspicious tickets. It's for everyone's protection." Behind her, Donna was frantically typing on her tablet, her face growing paler by the second. She tugged on Cheryl's sleeve, trying to whisper something, but Cheryl shook her off. Ava noticed the woman in 3A had her phone out now too, but she was typing, not recording. A moment later, Ava's phone buzzed with a Twitter notification. "This flight attendant is harassing a black passenger in first class on @Sky Horizon Air, claiming suspicious ticket for no reason. This is what flying while black looks like. # flying while black # Sky Horizon, quote, the digital witnesses were gathering. Good. Let them see everything that was about to unfold. You're a liar and a thief." Cheryl's composure finally shattered, her voice echoing through the first-class cabin. "I know your type. Steal credit cards, buy expensive tickets, live some fantasy for a few hours." The accusation hung in the air like a poisonous cloud. Several passengers gasped. The man in 2B lowered his phone slightly, perhaps realizing he was documenting something uglier than he'd anticipated. But others kept recording, their cameras steady witnesses to the unfolding degradation. "My type?" Ava repeated softly, though inside each word landed like a physical blow. 20 years of building an empire, of transforming the aviation industry, reduced to a stereotype in her own aircraft. "You know exactly what I mean." Cheryl grabbed Ava's arm, her nails digging in through the hoodie fabric. "Stand up. Security is on their way." Ava gently but firmly removed Cheryl's hand from her arm. "I suggest you reconsider this course of action." "Are you threatening me?" Cheryl laughed, high and sharp. "Oh, this is perfect. Add that to the charges. Threatening a flight crew member." Donna tried again, more urgently. "Cheryl, I really need to show you something." "Not now!" Cheryl snapped. She turned back to the growing audience, playing to them now. "This is why we need stronger security measures. People like her think they can intimidate their way into spaces they don't belong." The woman in 3A was live streaming now. Ava could see herself on the screen, composed despite the chaos around her. The viewer count was climbing, 5,000, 10,000, 15,000. The caption read, "Sky Horizon flight attendant goes on racist tirade. Passenger keeping her cool is everything." "You think those thrift store clothes fool anyone?" Cheryl continued, emboldened by what she perceived as support from the staring passengers. "That hoodie probably cost more than you make in a month. Whoever's card you stole must be having a heart attack right now checking their statement." Ava pulled out her phone with deliberate calm. She opened her messaging app, making sure the screen was visible to the nearest camera. She typed, "Legal team prepare for emergency board meeting. Civil rights violation in progress. Activate all protocols. Calling your dealer?" "Your pimp?" Cheryl sneered. "Who's going to bail you out this time?" That's when Ava saw him, a young black man in a Sky Horizon ground crew uniform, standing at the cabin door. His eyes were wide with recognition and horror. He mouthed silently, "Miss Mitchell?" She gave him the slightest shake of her head. "Not yet." "The problem isn't her ticket," Ava said, her voice carrying now, clear and strong. "The problem is that you took one look at my skin color and my clothes and decided I was a criminal. That's not a security protocol. That's racism." The word landed like a bomb. Cheryl's face flushed deep red. "How dare you play that card? This has nothing to do with race." "Doesn't it?" Ava stood slowly, gracefully. "When was the last time you demanded 3 forms of ID from a white passenger? When was the last time you accused someone who looked like him," she gestured to the man in 2B, "of stealing a credit card?" The businessman had the grace to look ashamed, lowering his phone finally. But the live stream continued, the viewer count now passing 50,000. Comments flooded in faster than anyone could read them. "You people always make it about race," Cheryl hissed, too far gone to realize she was proving Ava's point with every word. "Maybe if you acted like you belonged in civilized society—" "You people?" Ava repeated, louder this time. "Please, continue." "Tell this cabin, tell the thousands watching online right now, explain exactly what you mean by you people." Cheryl's eyes darted to the phones, seeming to realize for the first time just how many were pointed at her. But her pride, her 15 years of unchecked authority, wouldn't let her back down. "I mean criminals," she said, doubling down. "Scammers, the kind of people who dare to exist in first class while black?" Ava finished. "Your training obviously failed to mention that racial profiling isn't just wrong, it's illegal. But don't worry, we're about to fix that gap in your education." She looked directly into the nearest camera. "To everyone watching, this is the reality of flying while black in America. Even when you can afford first class, even when you've done everything right, someone like Cheryl Davis will still try to drag you out because you don't fit her image of who belongs." Her phone rang. The screen showed chairman of the board calling. "But here's what Cheryl doesn't know," Ava said, her finger hovering over the accept button. "These protocols she's so concerned about? I wrote them. This cabin she's so protective of? I own it. And this airline she's embarrassing with her bigotry? I'm about to show her exactly who runs it." "Don't touch that phone." Cheryl lunged forward, trying to grab the device from Ava's hand. "Paul! Mike! Get in here now!" 2 male flight attendants appeared, their faces uncertain but responding to Cheryl's authority. The cabin erupted in chaos. Passengers were standing, some shouting for Cheryl to stop, others demanding Ava be removed. The livestream viewer count hit 100,000. "She's resisting!" Cheryl shouted, though Ava had simply stepped back, keeping her phone out of reach. "That's assault on a flight crew member." "Ma'am, please sit down," Paul said to Ava, though his voice lacked conviction. He'd seen Donna's tablet, seen her frantic gestures. Something was very wrong here. "I'm happy to sit down when Ms. Davis apologizes for her racist behavior," Ava replied calmly. "Racist? Racist!" Cheryl was practically screaming now. "I've served every color of passenger for 15 years. I don't see color. I see criminals." The captain emerged from the cockpit, his face grave. "What the hell is going on in my cabin?" "Captain Morrison." Cheryl rushed to him like a student to a principal. "This woman has a fraudulent ticket. She's refusing to comply, threatening me, causing a disturbance." "She's lying." The woman in 3A stood up. "I've been recording everything. This passenger has been nothing but calm while your flight attendant hurled racist accusations." "Stay out of this!" Cheryl whirled on her. "Or you'll be next." "Next for what?" A man in 4B stood up, also black. "Next to be accused of stealing? Next to be humiliated? Everyone, please!" Captain Morrison tried to restore order, but the damage was spiraling beyond control. The live-stream chat was exploding. "Boycott Sky Horizon!" "This is America? Sue them, sis! Where is the CEO?" That's when Ava's phone rang again. This time she answered it, putting it on speaker. "Miss Mitchell?" The voice was nervous, young. "This is Jake from ground crew." "I'm at the door. Should I tell them?" "Tell us what?" Captain Morrison demanded. Cheryl grabbed Ava's wrist. "You're not going anywhere until the police." "Cheryl, stop!" Donna finally screamed, her tablet shaking in her hands. "Look at the employee directory. Just look. I don't need to look at anything." But Cheryl's voice wavered now. The ground crew member at the door looked sick. The captain was pulling out his own phone, his face draining of color as he looked at whatever Donna was showing him. "Oh my God," he whispered. "Oh my God, Cheryl, what have you done?" "I've done my job." But fear was creeping into her voice now. "I've protected this aircraft from a suspicious—" "Check the ownership records," Ava said quietly. "Check who signs your paychecks. Check who owns 47% of Sky Horizon Airlines." Cheryl's hand was still on Ava's wrist, but her grip had gone slack. Around them, passengers were Googling frantically. Someone gasped, then another. 27 million people are watching," the woman in 3A announced, her phone still streaming. 27 million people just waiting to see what happens next." The cabin phone rang. Captain Morrison answered with a shaking hand. "Yes? Yes, sir. Yes, right here. I understand. Yes, Mr. Chairman." He held out the phone to Cheryl like it was a live grenade. It's for you." Cheryl took the phone, her face still defiant. "This is Cheryl Davis, Senior." Even from several feet away, everyone could hear the booming voice on the other end. Cheryl's face went from red to white in seconds. The phone slipped from her numb fingers, clattering on the floor. "No," she whispered. "No, that's not possible." "She can't be, she doesn't look like—" Ava bent down and picked up the phone. "Marcus?" "Yes, I'm here. No, I'm not hurt. Yes, it's all been documented, every second." She paused, listening. "No, I'll handle this personally. Have the board assembled in 20 minutes. We have a company to restructure." She ended the call and looked around the silent cabin. Every eye was on her. Every phone was still recording. The power dynamic had shifted so completely that several passengers were now standing as if she were a judge entering a courtroom. "My name," she said clearly, "is Ava Mitchell. I am the CEO and primary shareholder of Sky Horizon Airlines. I bought this company 3 years ago with a vision of making air travel equitable and dignified for everyone." She turned to Cheryl, who had collapsed into an empty seat. Clearly, we still have work to do. Captain Morrison's hands shook as he held the phone, the chairman's words still echoing in his ears. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced over the intercom, his voice cracking, "I need to inform you that Ms. Ava Mitchell, the passenger in 2A, is the CEO and majority owner of Sky Horizon Airlines." The cabin erupted. Passengers who had been recording suddenly lowered their phones, as if the devices might somehow implicate them. The businessman in 2B, who had whispered about theft, was now stumbling over himself to apologize. I didn't mean, I never said." "Yes, you did," Ava said quietly. "And millions of people heard you." Cheryl sat frozen, her face a mask of horror as the full magnitude of her actions crashed over her. 15 years of seniority, of unchecked power, evaporating in an instant. You tricked me," she whispered. "You set me up." "No," Ava shook her head. "I gave you every opportunity to treat me like any other passenger. You chose discrimination. You chose hatred." "Ms. Mitchell," Captain Morrison approached carefully as if she might explode, "I am so deeply sorry. If I had known—" "That's exactly the problem, Captain. You shouldn't need to know who I am to ensure your crew treats passengers with respect." She turned to address the cabin. "I've been testing our culture, yes. Not through deception, but by simply existing as a black woman in spaces I have every right to occupy." The woman in 3A was still streaming, tears now flowing down her face. 38 million watching, she announced. "The whole world is seeing this." Donna stepped forward, tablet clutched to her chest. "Miss Mitchell, I tried to tell her. I recognized you from the company newsletter, but she wouldn't listen." "I know," Ava said gently. "And that took courage. We need more employees like you." Her phone buzzed with message after message. CNN wanted a statement. The NAACP was offering support. The Department of Transportation was launching an investigation. But Ava ignored them all, focusing on the immediate situation. "Cheryl Davis," she said formally, "you are suspended immediately, pending a full investigation. Captain Morrison, please arrange for her to be escorted off this aircraft." "You can't. I have union protection." Cheryl stood shakily. "I followed protocol." "Which protocol?" Ava pulled out her phone, opening the employee handbook. "Show me the protocol that says to accuse black passengers of theft. Show me where it says to grab them, humiliate them, refuse to serve them." Cheryl's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. Around them, other crew members were visibly distancing themselves from her, the tribal loyalty of minutes ago evaporating. "What you followed," Ava continued, "was the unwritten protocol of prejudice. The one that says black people don't belong in first class. The one that says we must have stolen or scammed our way into spaces of privilege." She looked around the cabin. "And how many of you followed that same protocol in your minds? How many of you saw me and thought she doesn't belong before you knew my name?" The silence was deafening. Even the live stream chat had gone quiet, thousands of viewers absorbing the moment. "But here's what's going to change," Ava announced. "Effective immediately, Sky Horizon will implement the most comprehensive anti-discrimination training in the industry. Every employee, from ground crew to C-suite, will undergo mandatory bias education. We will hire diversity consultants to review every policy, every procedure, every cultural norm." Jake from the ground crew had entered the cabin, along with 2 security officers. But they weren't there for Ava. "Ms. Davis," one officer said carefully, "we need you to come with us." "For what?" "Doing my job?" Cheryl's voice was hysterical now. "For assault," Ava said calmly. "You grabbed me. That's on camera. For harassment. For violation of federal anti-discrimination laws. For creating a hostile environment not just for me, but for every black passenger who will now wonder if they'll face the same treatment." As security led Cheryl away, she turned back one last time. "I'm not a racist," she screamed. I'm not. No, Ava said, loud enough for everyone to hear. You're just someone who looked at a black woman and saw a criminal. There's a word for that, Cheryl. And 38 million people just learned exactly what it looks like. Within minutes, the live stream had been shared across every major news outlet. #Ava Mitchell and #Sky Horizon Scandal were trending worldwide. The video of Cheryl screaming, "You people always make it about race," became an instant meme, a textbook example of discrimination in action. By the time the plane finally took off with a completely new crew, Cheryl Davis was in federal custody. The FBI had been monitoring the situation since Ava's legal team alerted them to a potential hate crime in progress. The assault charge alone carried a maximum of 1 year, but combined with federal civil rights violations, Cheryl was facing up to 5 years in prison. The union can't save her, Ava explained to the hushed cabin as they reached cruising altitude. Racial discrimination isn't protected activity. She violated not just company policy but federal law. Her phone hadn't stopped buzzing. Other airlines were already announcing reviews of their own policies, terrified of becoming the next viral scandal. Competitors' stock prices were dropping while Sky Horizons ironically soared as investors recognized Ava's decisive leadership. The businessman in 2B approached tentatively. Ms. Mitchell, I owe you an apology. I fed into the situation. I made assumptions. What's your name? Ava asked. Richard Hampton. I was actually flying to New York for a meeting with Sky Horizon about a potential partnership. Was? Ava raised an eyebrow. He swallowed hard. I assume after my behavior. Mr. Hampton, you have a choice. You can be part of the problem or part of the solution. Your assumptions today were wrong, but your willingness to admit that shows growth potential. She handed him her card. When we land, call my office. We're going to need corporate partners who understand why this work matters. Throughout the cabin, similar conversations were happening. The woman in 3A introduced herself as Denise Williams, a civil rights attorney. I've never seen anything like that, she said. The composure it took not to react to her provocations. 30 years of practice, Ava admitted, though it never gets easier. As they flew over Middle America, Ava's legal team was busy below. Cheryl Davis had been officially terminated, her personnel file updated with the reason gross misconduct, racial discrimination, assault on CEO. Her 15 years of seniority meant nothing. Her pension was under review. Her ability to work in aviation again was effectively zero. But more importantly, the investigation revealed a pattern. Cheryl had generated 312 customer complaints over 5 years, predominantly from passengers of color. Complaints that had been dismissed, buried, excused. She's just thorough, previous managers had written. Takes security seriously. How many others? Ava asked Marcus over the phone. How many Cheryl Davises do we have in our ranks? We're reviewing all complaint records going back 10 years, he assured her. This ends now. By the time they began their descent into JFK, Cheryl Davis had become the face of discrimination in America. Her photo was on every news site. Her neighbors were being interviewed. Her social media history was being dissected, revealing a pattern of posts about those people and reverse racism and why is everything about race these days? The FBI announced they were treating it as a hate crime. The Department of Justice was opening a broader investigation into discrimination in the airline industry. And Cheryl Davis, who 6 hours ago had wielded her authority like a weapon, was sitting in a federal holding cell, her career destroyed, her freedom in jeopardy, her name forever linked to the ugliness she'd tried to deny. She'll plea bargain, Ava told Denise as they prepared to land. They always do. Probably get 2 to 3 years, serve 18 months, but it's not really about her anymore. It's about the system that created her, Denise nodded, the culture that protected her. And changing that culture, Ava agreed, one flight at a time. At the press conference at JFK, Ava stood before a room packed with reporters, her Howard University hoodie replaced by a simple black suit. She'd insisted on no podium, no barrier between her and the audience. Behind her, a screen showed stills from the live stream. Her calm face contrasted with Cheryl's contorted rage. "I want to be clear," she began, her voice steady. "What happened today was not an isolated incident. It was not one bad apple. It was the visible symptom of a disease that infects our entire industry, our entire society." She paused, letting her words sink in. "I bought Sky Horizon Airlines because I believed in the promise of connection, of bringing people together. But how can we connect when we're divided by prejudice? How can we soar when we're weighed down by hate? Some have asked why I didn't immediately identify myself, why I let it escalate." She looked directly into the cameras. "Because power shouldn't determine treatment. Because a black woman in ripped jeans deserves the same respect as a CEO in a suit. Because change doesn't come from policies alone, it comes from confronting the truth of who we are." A reporter raised her hand. "What about those who say you entrapped Ms. Davis?" "Entrapment?" Ava's voice remained calm. "I sat in a seat I paid for. I asked for water. I existed while black. If that's entrapment, then every black person in America is setting a trap simply by living their lives." She announced the creation of the Sky Horizon Justice Initiative, $50 million dedicated to anti-discrimination training, not just for their airline but for the entire industry. Free programs, shared resources. Because this wasn't about competing, it was about transforming. To those who've been where I was today, judged, dismissed, humiliated because of your appearance, I see you. Your dignity matters. Your humanity matters. And to those who've been where Cheryl was, so certain in your assumptions that you couldn't see the person in front of you, it's not too late to change. She shared statistics. 73% of black passengers reported experiencing discrimination while flying. 82% said they'd been asked for additional verification that white passengers weren't required to provide. 91% had been made to feel unwelcome in premium cabins. These aren't just numbers. They're people. They're the grandmother visiting her grandchildren, who's told she must be in the wrong place. They're the young professional whose success is questioned at every turn. They're the child who learns early that some spaces will always challenge their right to exist. The room was silent. Even hardened journalists seemed moved by her words. But today proved something powerful, Ava continued. When we stand witness to injustice, when we record it, share it, refuse to let it hide in the shadows, we can create change. 38 million people watched what happened, not because it was entertaining, but because they recognized it. They'd seen it before. Maybe they'd lived it before. She announced that all Sky Horizon employees would undergo immediate retraining. That complaint procedures would be revolutionized, with an independent board reviewing all discrimination claims. That hiring practices would be overhauled to ensure diversity at every level. "This isn't about revenge," she said softly. "Cheryl Davis will face justice, but I take no joy in her downfall. This is about revelation, about revealing the prejudice that hides behind policies and procedures, about insisting that dignity is not a luxury upgrade, it's a human right." As she concluded, she returned to the personal. "I've been asked if I regret what happened today. I regret that it was necessary. I regret that in 2025 a black woman still has to prove her humanity. But I don't regret standing up. I don't regret staying calm when everything in me wanted to rage. Because sometimes dignity is its own form of resistance." Ava looked directly into the main camera, her final words carrying the weight of both challenge and hope. "So, I ask each of you watching, what will you do the next time you witness discrimination? Will you record it? Will you speak up? Will you stand with those who are told they don't belong? She held up her phone, showing the flood of messages from other Black professionals sharing their stories. Don't let them silence you. Don't let them diminish you. Document everything. Support each other, because exposure is the first step to justice. To my fellow CEOs, executives, leaders, examine your companies. How many Cheryl Davises are you harboring? How many complaints have you ignored? How many times have you chosen comfort over justice? Her voice grew stronger. Change isn't comfortable. It wasn't comfortable sitting in that seat while hatred washed over me. It wasn't comfortable staying calm while being accused of crimes I didn't commit. But comfort has never been the price of progress. She announced a new hashtag, #Dignity in the Sky. Share your stories, the good and the bad. Let's create a record that can't be ignored, a chorus that can't be silenced. And to those who think this is playing the race card or making everything about race, I challenge you. Fly while Black. Shop while Black. Exist while Black. Then tell me race doesn't matter. She paused, her final words deliberate and powerful. They told Rosa Parks to move to the back of the bus. They told me I didn't belong in first class. But here's what history teaches us. When we refuse to move, when we insist on our dignity, when we make injustice visible, the whole world has to reckon with its conscience. So remember this. Respect has no color. Dignity has no price tag. And justice, real justice, has no patience for those who would deny either. She stepped back from the microphone, then returned for one final statement. Oh, and to anyone flying Sky Horizon who thinks they can judge a passenger by their appearance, you might want to ask yourself, what if the person you're dismissing owns the plane? The room erupted in applause, but Ava was already walking away, her phone buzzing with the next challenge, the next opportunity to turn prejudice into progress. Behind her, the screen showed the final image from the live stream, Cheryl Davis being led away in handcuffs, while Ava Mitchell stood tall, unbowed, unbroken. The revolution at 30,000 feet had just begun. The November rain streaked down the windows of Sky Horizon headquarters as Ava Mitchell stood in her corner office, studying the wall of press clippings. The New York Times, the flight that changed aviation. The Washington Post, how one woman's dignity sparked a revolution. Time magazine had named her Person of the Year, but the cover remained face down on her desk. Her reflection caught in the window, the same face that had remained calm while Cheryl Davis raged, now carrying the weight of transformation. The numbers told one story. Minority customer satisfaction up 94%. Revenue soared by 31%. Discrimination complaints nearly vanished. But numbers couldn't capture the letters flooding in daily, each one a testament to dignity reclaimed. The door opened softly. Donna Williams entered, no longer the nervous flight attendant who'd tried to warn Cheryl, now head of customer experience with quiet authority earned through courage. She set down a folder without speaking. They'd developed this ritual over the months. The weekly report on Cheryl Davis, 3 years federal prison. The photo showed her in orange, hair gray at the roots, face hollowed by consequence. Her daughter Sarah had visited Ava twice more, each time carrying letters Cheryl couldn't yet send herself. The words evolution from defiance to confusion to something approaching understanding. Maybe. Ava's phone lit up with a message from Denise Williams, the woman from 3A who'd live-streamed everything. Now Sky Horizon's director of equity, she was in Washington celebrating. The president had just signed the Aviation Dignity Act federal protection against discrimination in the skies. They were calling it Ava's Law, though Ava had fought against the name. This was never about her. Through the rain-blurred window, she watched planes rise from JFK, each carrying hundreds of souls who might never know how one flight had changed their journey. The live stream had crossed 500 million views, translated into 47 languages, dissected in universities worldwide. But Ava thought less about the viral moment than about the quiet revolution's flight attendants examining their biases, passengers speaking up against discrimination, airlines restructuring from the ground up. Marcus Thompson appeared in the doorway, the chairman who'd supported her through it all. His eyes held that particular gleam that meant expansion. 2 more airlines were ready to sell, their boards shaken by the cultural reckoning Ava had unleashed. The old boys' network was crumbling, replaced by something more honest, if more difficult. She turned from the window, decision crystallizing. The letter from Cheryl lay in her desk drawer, still sealed. One day she'd open it, when forgiveness felt less like betrayal of everyone who'd suffered in silence. But today wasn't that day. Her assistant's voice crackled through the intercom, another interview request, another university wanting her to speak, another airline begging for her consultation. She declined them all. The work happened in smaller moments now, hiring pilots who'd been overlooked, promoting ground crew who'd been invisible, creating scholarships for children who'd been told they didn't belong in the sky. Richard Hampton's latest email glowed on her screen. The businessman from 2B had become an unlikely ally, his company now a model for corporate diversity. His transformation proved something Ava had always believed: witnesses could choose their side of history. As evening approached, she prepared for the Sky Horizon Academy launch. Free flight training for underrepresented communities, because changing who flew the planes mattered as much as changing how passengers were treated. The first class had 200 applicants for 50 spots. By next year, there would be 500 spots. By the year after, 1,000. The rain had stopped. Sun broke through, painting the sky in shades of justice. Somewhere, Cheryl Davis sat in a cell learning what Ava had always known. Dignity wasn't about clothes or class or color. It was about seeing humanity in every face, even the ones that had refused to see it in yours. Her final meeting approached, the acquisition team for the 2 airlines. Their executives would walk in expecting to meet a vengeful woman who'd destroyed Cheryl Davis. Instead, they'd find someone far more dangerous, a leader who understood that real power lay not in humiliation, but in transformation. She straightened her simple black suit, the same one she'd worn to that first press conference. No designer labels, no power symbols. Just Ava Mitchell, ready to expand the revolution beyond 30,000 feet. The intercom buzzed. "They're here, Ms. Mitchell." She smiled, thinking of all the first-class cabins about to discover what dignity looked like. "Send them in. And tell them." She paused, remembering Cheryl's sneer, the phone's recording the moment everything changed. "Tell them to ask themselves one question before we begin. What if the person you're dismissing owns the plane?" The door opened. The revolution continued.